Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to the Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Today, our guest is Kriner. Jay, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you? And thank you for having me on.
Thank good. Thank you. So nice of you. So, Jay, can you let us know where you live and what you do?
Yeah. So I'm based out of New Braunfels, Texas, and I am the CEO of Gale Project Technologies. And we are pioneering the remote monitoring station with its own drone deployment capabilities for public safety and defense.
Awesome. So, can you guide me a little bit about your responsibilities? What are your core responsibilities in the company? Because as a founder, you may have a lot of responsibilities, a lot of hats. So please let me know about your core responsibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. So like any founder, you got to wear all the hats, right? And a lot of people ask, what hats are they? So for how I came about and what hats I wore, initially started as a design and engineer minded individual. Coming up with what we're doing was my little baby, so I was the engineer. I was the one drafting it, writing the white papers, the documentation for it. And once you have that concept and idea, bringing it to life was a whole nother avenue, right? So we have to start the business, get the accounting correct, the structure of the business. So not just an engineer, you got to be like an accountant and a CPA and understand, all the background information to kind of just even launch a business technically. And then it's kind of the fun part. I've done a lot of web development in the background. So, okay, cool. Let's launch a website. Boom. We start those marketing things. So there's my marketing hat, you got to put on as you're developing the product in the background. So now where we're at a year and a half later, a little bit longer, is, I've progressed my roles, because I was publicly like, yeah, I'm the founder COO. Because I'm not really the CEO yet because I'm still doing everything. And then once I was able to grow and delegate some stuff off, grow my team with advisors and outsourcing to subcontractors, I formally took the role of CEO. I think that's a lot of misconception. Everybody's like, well, I'm the founder CEO. Well, like, what are you really good at? Make that your job title. Like if you're really good at sales, you're the Chief Sales Officer. Be exactly what you're best at, and don't be afraid to honestly find someone who's smarter and better at you to maybe be the CEO too. So that's what I do now. I still wear a ton of hats. I'm on engineering calls every day. I'm all over the place going to all these different events trying to learn technologies and find suppliers. So you got to be that supply chain management guy too. At the end of the day, if no one's going to help me do it, I got to do it myself, right? So I got to get up every day and make it happen. So wearing all of those hats is a blessing and a curse.
At the same time.
Yes.
Exactly. I think I can relate this thing with me as well. Maybe we are like-minded. I started my business in 2016, and at that time I was a CEO and everything, CEO plus everything. Eventually, with the passage of time, I started designating different things to others. And in 2019, I met with Dan, and at that time, I said, "Okay, so you will be the CEO, and I will be the CTO because I'm also an engineer."
Yeah. Yeah, you got to stay in the lane that you're good at. I'll put it like this. Everybody wants to say they're the CEO or a boss title. And no one wants that when you're really there, okay? You want to be where you're good at and stay there and let someone else take on those stresses. So,
Yeah.
no, I 100% get that.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I also faced a lot of things when, like back in 2018, 2019, 2017. So there were a lot of things that I faced, and eventually I met Dan, and I said, okay, bro, now you will be the CEO, I will be the CTO, and let's do the magic. Yeah, now we have delegated a lot of hats to others, and I'm in a good shape. Still on tons of calls on daily basis, but yeah, obviously this is part of the business. This is part of the game. Awesome. So can you, Jay, can you please guide me a little bit about the marketing side, because you are looking into the marketing side as well. How you are managing this? Because in marketing, again, marketing is a vast vertical, I believe, and there are a lot of things. So how you're managing it with the digital marketing, or you're managing it like in a mix and match of online and offline?
Yeah. It depends on the product, right? So our product is mainly public safety. One, I need to identify my end user.
Mhm.
Who's my client? And then I really need to focus my efforts in making something that's going to appeal to them, get their feedback, and start networking. Networking is everything. So when we use like platforms and everybody says marketing, I'm not doing TikToks, I'm not doing Instagram reels, all that, trying to get my product out there, or even like, I don't know, in magazines. I'm not paying for this stuff. I'm trying to leverage my network to where I collect as many industry partners and friends at that point that I can leverage, and I can discuss more of what I'm doing. And on the back end, what I'm really doing is marketing directly to them. So you got to take that other approach of not in their face. I don't want to be ad after ad after ad and you get annoyed with me. I want you to be a part of it and contribute to what I'm doing. And that's my way of marketing too, is you'll get more support through your industry that will end up going to your end buyers and consumers if everybody's just working together, and then like you tie them in somehow. Ask them a question. What do you think about this? What would you do differently? And that was a different way of marketing, because I wasn't trying to sell anything. What I was trying to do was get them involved. And at that point, they're already the cheerleader, right? They're the ones in the background be like, man, I was a part of that. I loved that. So that's what I was looking for as far as marketing. Nowadays is a lot different. You got to look at SEO on your websites. You got to look at LinkedIn is pretty heavy. I really use a lot of that. Then you start looking into, do I go to events? What events? Why would I go to that event? What's the ROI on that event? And then a side thing too is just some of these industry gatherings. It doesn't have to be an expo or a conference. It could be a startup meetup, we can go to Austin and there's a couple a month, and you can just go and you can be in the room with everybody, or you can be pitching, because they offer people to come up and pitch on stage. That's perfect. You're getting your product and brand out there more and more every single time. So that's what I do for my marketing aspects. But because my product's so unique and different, everybody will have to change to what's going to appeal to their end user.
Because your product is pretty different and unique. So I'm not sure if you have the competitors in the market. But just in case, if you do have some competitors, then what are your differentiators? What sets you apart from the market?
100%. So everybody, we'll put it like this. There's millions of different frying pans out there, right? They all do the same thing. They all fry something, but one sells more than the other. How? So you got to think in that mindset. What we are doing 100% is innovative and different. Not just, we didn't invent the drone, okay? We're going to use somebody else's as a supplier, but where that drone lives and what that housing does, that is what differentiates what we do versus other people already out there that make, we'll call it drone in a box or a drone housing station or just the drone itself. We're taking all of the greatest technical features and putting it into one simple package for the end user, versus I've got a camera here and a sensor there and a drone there and a guy that, no, we put everything into one system. So that's what really set us apart, is just thinking outside the box technically.
Awesome. So in this whole scenario, how you onboard the client and what is the client acquisition process?
Yeah, so public safety and defense, it sounds scary and big, but if we look at it like the end user, what they're going to use it for. My favorite one is the heartstring story. It's like, if this was used for fire departments, this could help them find a missing person. This could help them identify an accident, but they don't have the time and resources to get there fast enough to know what to bring. This can monitor that area or deploy a drone out as a first responder. So this really cuts down a lot of that time and resources that can make some of those life-changing measurements before they even get there. So it really is understanding the use case at the very end and then how we're solving that problem. And again, there's multiple frying pans out there, but we're just making them a lot easier to use.
Makes sense. Completely makes sense. Awesome. So, can you share one of your biggest challenge that you have ever faced? I'm sure you have faced many challenges, and there's a possibility every day comes with a new challenge. But still, if you can share one challenge with us, how you were able to, what was the challenge and how you were able to cope up with that challenge?
Yeah. So the biggest challenge is everybody needs money, right? You can't make anything without spending money. So having to understand, what does this cost? How am I going to come up with those funds? How do I raise money? You set that all up. You got to make a timeline. This isn't going to happen today or tomorrow. You have to really put in a lot of that work to make that on a document and show milestones and deliverables. So that was a huge challenge. Is technology is expensive. We're not making just the frying pan. So it's one of those where that was a huge one. That was really difficult. I'm an engineer too, so I can do basic drawings and schematics, but I need people to do CAD. That's not what I do. I need people to look at electrical engineering or radio frequencies. You need to really, like, this helped me a ton, is grow your network, start discussing this with people, tell people where your pinch points are, be transparent, be like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Can you help? When you start to chew your pride and understand, like, I'm just one guy, I'm not the expert, I could really use somebody like you, then I think you get a lot more accomplished, and people are willing to help at that point too. So the other thing that I really share is mental health. If anybody's ever started a business or want to, I will tell you this, it is not fun. Like, you're going to go through so many like hurdles, long days. You're going to jeopardize going out with your friends, or your free time. It's going to cause you stress. It can cause your family stress. So knowing that's coming around, and the more you communicate that with your friends and your family, everybody's prepared. So that'll help you prepare for the next, problems, the hurdles when they come there. You're like, okay, I expected this. Here's what I'm going to do now.
That's beautiful. Awesome. So, Jake, can you guide us a little bit about your short-term goals? Maybe what you are going to do in next 6 months. What are your plans?
Yeah. So we just got investors for the first time for Gale, which was amazing. We had documented what we were already going to do. And all it took was, okay, now we need funding to do additional prototype phases. Well, that costs money. So we need the investors. But by knowing that was already there, the second we got funding, you're already on track to do the next thing. It wasn't wondering what to do next. So when someone says, what do you got going in 6 months? I'll be like, I'm probably going to design the version 2.0. Like always thinking ahead in advance. So I'm not laser focused and stuck on just the one thing I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make that one, but the better version. You got to constantly evolve like that.
That's good. So, Jake, can you let me know how you define your success? Because success may have a lot of parameters, and one of the easiest parameter that I can tell you is revenue. The numbers of revenue.
Success for some people is like money.
Yes.
That's usually the first response is money or sales. When you write those milestones, like I was saying, like I want to go through design. That's a milestone. Then prototype's another milestone. And then I need this to function in that prototype. That's a milestone. When you start going through those and you're checking those boxes off, you're like, that's a win. That's a win. And you keep doing this. You can't make these milestones unachievable, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
You need the easy ones. So you're getting those wins. But on the back end of it, it's all leading up to the big one. So success for us at the very end, the number one thing I think I'll cry is when someone has our system out there, and let's say a fire department does rescue somebody because of our system. If they find a missing kid, like if we did one thing and it just helped, that validated every single thing we've been working for. You can't put a price to that. So if we're talking about the lifelong goal of what I'm trying to achieve is helping and saving a life, like just one. I don't need 10. I just need one.
That's beautiful.
That would be an amazing feeling as a human to say, I invented something that saved that life.
That's beautiful, bro. That's beautiful. Awesome. Well, awesome, Jay. Can you please give us the biggest piece of advice at the end for our viewers who are mostly the entrepreneurs, but there are some who are planning to start their business or maybe to be their own boss?
Yeah. So you can have 100 ideas. Knowing which one to go after is really difficult. So do all the homework you can. The only way you're going to be successful is if you have drive and passion. Because if you give up too easy, it'll never work. If you can't deal with the stresses and then you give up, it'll never work. You have to really every day have a fresh mind and say, today I could fail. Today something could happen, but tomorrow get up and keep doing it over. So having that drive and passion, you'll come out. If it's not the product you intended, you'll still come out with something and you'll succeed no matter what. You might even a year or two down the line saying, it didn't work out, I'm closing shop. That wasn't a failure. You literally learned everything on how to start a business and what it took to just apply it to the next one.
True, that's true. Awesome. Well, Jay, I really enjoyed the conversation. It was a really good session. Thanks for joining us today. At the end, please guide us or guide our viewers how they can reach you if someone wants to reach. You can share your website or social media handles.
There's two great ways. One, if you want to learn about what we're doing, galeproject.com, which is GALE. project.com. And then find me on LinkedIn. You can search my name or Gale Project on LinkedIn. that's a great way because I do post stuff there that's motivational or informational. You can see some of our milestones and how we did those too. So, anything I can do to help, I'm always an open book. So
That's great. Awesome. Well, thank you, Jay. Again, thanks again for joining us today, and we will stay in touch.
awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Jay. Bye-bye. Nice
Bye.
to meet you.